welcome to XReality podcast. I'm the host, Dominic Wu, and beside me is our guest today, Amy. Hi, Amy. Would you share a little bit about your background with us?
Sure. Dominic, thanks for having me. So my name is Amy LaMeyer. I'm managing partner of WXR Fund. WXR stands for Women in XR, and our thesis is directly related to that. It's XR and spatial computing and AI early stage companies with at least one female founder. So we have a portfolio of 14 companies and grow from our initial investments, and they're across a variety of industries from education, healthcare, media and entertainment, real estate, uh, retail. Just so it's really we started the fund in late 2019, and it's really been an exciting journey. My business partner is the other managing partner is Martina Welkoff. She's based in Seattle, and I'm here in the Bay Area.
Cool. Yeah, so we all know you are a very influential person in XR and woman field. And can you tell us a little bit about what's the current investment landscape in XR? Especially right now, there's AI hype. What do you see? How have investment trends in XR or XRAI evolved in the past few years, or what do you see foreseeing in this industry or in this field?
It's certainly been a journey. So I'll start by saying that I started to get involved in the XR space in 2016. So that would be the year that the first Oculus came out, and HTC also launched a headset that year. Um, I actually left a company called Akamai Technologies in order to do more in this space because I saw it and I thought, oh, this is part of the next computing platform. Um, just that sense of three-dimensional computing and more presence. Um, as we see with all emerging technologies, there's a hype cycle, and that the XR has certainly gone through that, and potentially two bumps of that. And AI, we're in it right now, right? 2 years ago, with the launch of ChatGPT, really has, still in a 2 year long hype cycle, which I think is really interesting. So certainly hype cycles are real, and there's a sense of more or less investment interest, and part of that is driven by the technology itself, which the companies surrounding it, the innovation that's happening, but also the market reaction, right? How big is the opportunity? Um, and part of it is just general economic conditions. So those are kind of the two basic factors for investing in this space.
Yeah, and actually yesterday I just listened to there's a interesting topic. It says like Microsoft CEO just had a podcast interview saying that SaaS is dead due to AI agent. So
Mhm.
what do you see this types of topic? Because every time when I saw like the prediction of the future, I always think that everything seems really flourish in the future will be dead. What do you see like a SaaS is dead claim or announced by Microsoft CEO?
Yeah, I think we need to remember that everything takes longer than we think, and also that change is a constant, right? So there will be a shift, there will be new technologies. That will never stop. There will always be a new thing. And things always take longer than we think, or almost always. One example that I'll never forget in my own life was in Akamai, we were building streaming networks. So what Akamai does is it helps to scale the internet. Essentially, we started in 1999, and uh, we were building networks so that we could stream video content. And no one really streamed video content until at least mean, maybe starting 2006, not no one, but very few, right? Apple would do a keynote, but we didn't rely on it like we do today. There weren't even smartphones, right? Certainly not the use of Zoom like has picked up since 2020. But we were building it 25 years ago, right? So I believe that the essences of these early stage technologies are real, but from the time that they begin until the time that they're truly at the mass stage, right? Is just it's a long journey.
Yeah, and the XR is probably, I mean, it has been a long history, but I think it's still in its infancy. I mean, I think AI will help out with like the development. For example, recently I'm teaching Kenyatta College and teaching a student with a lot of them, majority of them didn't have the coding experience, but I taught them little bit concept, and I taught them like using ChatGPT to cheat. According to some other coding teachers, he told me that if you use AI to code, you are cheating. Anyway, and then I find out a lot. I just show a list of kind of like AI tools, creation tools for my student, and they came up with their own way. For example, somebody just sketch a human character and put in Meshly AI. I forgot the name, but it turns out to be a really rough mesh. And my student just used it's really weird. Like Apple has a really weird software that allows people use the pencil, Apple Pen,
Uh-huh.
to draw things. So he just used it's not even Blender or Maya. He has his own way and everything looks great. So I think AI probably not really take over the entire entertainment industry, but definitely can make novelty, like beginners into experts within
Yeah.
a very short amount of time. And whatever your brain has the concept, it just very quickly just become a product.
And ultimately enable pros as well. I was having a conversation with a very good friend of mine who used to be a developer, but has worked his ranks through to management in a in a company we all know. And he was talking about how he was dabbling on the side of creating something new. And so he was developing again, and he hadn't for maybe a decade. And like the difference between developing now and developing something, creating something 10 years ago, he said it's totally different. He said something that would have taken him weeks, he got done in an afternoon. But he said it's a really different mindset on how you go about creating so that you can so that you can leverage, AI and these, different sorts of accelerators to get something done faster. So I still think the human is key
Mm.
and everyone can benefit, right? Whether you're a novice or an expert from helping to, either be more creative or be more efficient on creating new things. I think it's a
Mm.
really exciting time.
Yeah, I think this is a new evolution. It seems like it becomes we are entering to the sci-fi world that a lot of terrifying, like a lot of big people are warning us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I remember I saw a news that there was a really big person says that we need to be aware that we are creating something smarter than us. So, and when that AI look at us, we are like a monkey or like a 3-year-old baby. So yeah, so it's
There
always
certainly has been a lot of movies made like that. So
yeah, all right. It's probably yeah can increase the sales or like get a lot of engagement on the social media when people see those types of scary title. The emotion engagement will increase. That's for sure. Yeah. What do
but
you? Yeah.
ultimately
Go.
I'm positive about it. I just to build on that, I do think that we should go into this new technology as with all new technologies with our eyes wide open and be careful for how it can be inappropriately used because there will always be people that are doing that. Um, and realize that it is new for many of us. So we don't necessarily know what could be good or what could be bad, right? Again, like think back to days of the internet when we were creating this tool that we thought will ultimately just help us learn and communicate globally more easily. And it has also done negative things. So I definitely think that it is important to be cautious. It's part of the reason that I'm on the board of the XR Guild. We look at XR and AI from an ethical perspective, and it's a professional group that helps support looking into the ethics of development in XR and AI. So I do think that's important, and I am still excited about all the opportunities it's going to bring us.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I think I was very excited about when I saw my student before few months ago, 2 months ago, they know nothing about Unity. Later on, they can publish a game that is pretty polished. And I was impressed. And I was like, wow, then like I know you can code like they probably need a lot of like organizing the code, like there's a lot of advanced learning. But if we see that ChatGPT, they are going to launch the new one, and the new one, according to maybe some news, is on like in this world only 170 something top tier developers can
Mm.
beat up ChatGPT, the new version of coding.
Mm.
Otherwise, everybody else in this world, ChatGPT pretty much better than that. It's only 170
Wow.
amazing top tier developer can beat up ChatGPT. So I
Wow.
think it's even scarier. It's like sometimes I remember before when I talked to Kenyatta folks, there were a lot of people are talking like, what should I teach? And I remember some language learning, especially like English department. Um, I mean, if you see a lot of, for example, like San Francisco State University or some other university, a lot of university are shrinking, and also especially English department,
Mm.
because I think you see ChatGPT can do translation and also a lot of kind of like a teacher's roles if it's just purely teaching you grammar, teaching you some basic stuff, that function can be easily replaced by AI or some types of tutoring self-learning tools.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day because I saw some statistics about the usage of Duolingo, right? It's
Yeah.
this game that helps you learn other languages. And I thought in this era of, you can put on your Meta AI glasses and have
Yeah.
translate for you. I think it's interesting that there's also an uptick in people wanting to learn language, foreign languages. It just goes to show that we don't know, even if something can be automated, whether or not it'll truly be replaced.
Yeah, yeah, I do think this is a very interesting era. For example, like even though you see Microsoft CEO says that SaaS is dead, but if you think that it's just like when he described, he said that, for example, Excel sheet, it's just a lot of database. An Excel sheet is just human interface for human to key in stuff. But if now it's like you can delete all the human factor directly from your order to the execution. So you don't need the layer. You don't even need Excel. You just say something and things will be done through the database.
I am so looking forward to a world where we just speak and use hand gestures. I'm ready to get rid of a keyboard. And controllers.
Oh, you
Right.
know when Meta recently has a kind of public end of like their research. You don't
Right.
need a keyboard. You just type on your desk, and it will mapping up a keyboard for you. So you just like you can just
Right.
type anywhere because
Right.
you don't need keyboard. I find out that is wow, yeah, like a hardware. Everything becomes like a very mind blowing right now.
Yeah, that fluidity between reality and the virtual is just going to become smoother.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, the other question is that uh, uh like for example, like have you noticed any changes in investment focus? For example, before pandemic, and also metaverse. And then metaverse, we know like back in 2022, it seems like it's switching the direction and to more like I would say mixed reality or real world versus the AI. Yeah, those like hyper words. What do you see from before to right now? Like what's the investment kind of direction shift?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to believe that the pandemic was 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So really has been a lot of change in the investment world since then. I do think there's more of an openness to imagining a metaverse and virtual worlds. Um, that being said, the use cases for it and the hardware related to it, in order to it for it to truly become exponential growth, right, to users, and truly integrated with businesses and how they do their work. I think that has yet to play out, and therefore investors are hesitant to invest because the early investments, many early investments that they didn't pan out in the VR space because it was just too early.
yes,
Um, so I think there's certainly a dependence there on the hardware. Um, and I think with new hardware and with AI helping to develop new content for the space, I think we're still moving in the direction. I mean, clearly, we saw the Google Samsung announcement, and
yeah,
Meta announced Orion, and Apple's got the Vision Pro. So clearly, all the major tech players are moving towards the direction of having glasses that help you integrate, uh, communicate with in computing. But I think investors are waiting a little bit longer to see when that'll truly be ubiquitous.
yeah, yeah. I agree because right now it seems like um I would say the early adopters are very excited, but the mainstream there's a gap between, and especially for example, education sector. Education is always slow and behind, which is so sad because once you like a teacher has an idea, they need to have like a 20 layers of onions, like layers of approval. And sometimes, like for example, this year we come up with an idea, and the final execution and funding will be next year or the upcoming year cycle. So the cycle takes so long, and it's definitely, yeah, I would say
Well,
this.
I hear you. And also, I've heard that it's faster than it used to be. So you asked what has changed since the pandemic. And based on my experience with folks in the education space, they are more open to technology than they were. If you look at their
Mm,
adoption of Chromebooks, that took way longer, I think, than, we have a company in our portfolio called Prisms of Reality, and they've trained, they use VR, and they've trained over 300,000 students in math. So I do think there's more openness in education than there used to be to new technologies, and yet it is still slower than what you'll see with for profit institutions.
yeah, yeah, I do agree because I think for education, it's like I would say very slow, and a lot of teachers are pretty much grounded. And also, if, for example, like a language teaching teacher, like teaching Spanish or teaching English, I during kind of like some open meetings, I usually overhear that they've already have a system of assignment for
Mhm.
student.
Mhm.
And if student use ChatGPT, pretty much within 5 seconds, all the assignment will be done. And so they are kind of like, what should they do? And the entire world is adapting. But my thoughts to I kind of gave some advice for the teacher. I said that maybe increase the difficulties for all the assignment into like a thousand times harder and force them to work with AI. I don't know. It's just some thoughts. But
Interesting.
right now, I think all the assignment is too easy using AI to solve.
Yeah, and again, we can look back to what we learned with the advent of the internet and smartphones, right? Having a computer in one's pocket, how did that change how research is done or how we
Mm.
wrote papers? It was very significant. I mean, maybe not as significant as being able to put it in ChatGPT, but still, right? So we're humans, we can adapt, and we need to.
Yeah,
This is a
that's
turning point. It's a new computing paradigm.
yeah. I told my students that we are in the Cyberman era, which means that we are human and we have a huge brain in the cloud and connected with other human beings. So all we need to do is learn how to get access and get the thinkings, because now we are not only our physical brain living within our body, but there's a virtual brain out there. We can get it, access it to anywhere, anytime, as long as there's the internet.
That good point.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the areas I'm really excited about for that are healthcare, obviously. What can we do in terms of research, cancer research, et cetera,
Mm,
and climate, right? We've got some
yeah.
huge problems to solve for this planet and for the people that live on it. And so I'm really hoping that AI, and there are some AI companies and folks in those two spaces that can help solve some big problems.
Yeah, I just learned that Google has something called Fire Set or something. They have like an AI data and sync with some I would say probably like a satellite, and then using computer vision to see the forest fires. So within a very small, for example, if they figure it out there's a super small fire, they sync with the firefighters so they can immediately go there and yeah, to prevent the forest fire. So I think a lot of things are working well together, especially for AI. I think AI directly with some machines uh, in satellite and helping us to monitor. Though I think this space will be pretty good to help like us to prevent a lot of disasters. Cool. And we can jump into education and innovation. How can universities or schools better prepare students for emerging careers in AI and XR? For example, recently I read a book called The Generation of Anxiety.
Mhm.
It talks about Gen Z. And yeah, so yeah, in this generation, because when they grow up in high school or in junior high, it's during COVID. And now when they become college student or graduates, they are seeking for offers, but because they are in junior position, they
Mhm.
start thinking about what's their future. So what do you see that the school can be better prepared for the students, especially maybe Gen Z, for
Yeah.
XRAI?
So, I think the ultimate is having programs that are directly related to XR and AI, right? And development there. I think it's been said a lot, but we don't know all the jobs that will be available in the future, right? For kids today. They're gonna transform as the technology transforms. But in the meantime, if there aren't full, if there isn't the ability to have full XR related programs, and there's some good ones, obviously, as we know. Arizona has some great ones. I think NYU does. Uh, some down in LA. But what I would say is at least try to incorporate AI and XR related content within current curriculums, right? There are a lot of great books being written, yours being one of them. Tom Emmerich came out with one recently on AR. There's just some great books out there that are truly applicable, and that can be used in, be it development courses like yours or, in Tom's case, marketing and business classes. Start to incorporate this content into the current curriculum. That's what I would encourage.
Mm. Yeah, and I would say that the development tools is becoming easier and easier, such as Ships XR, right? And also like some other tools such as like a Bazy. Yeah, a lot of very like no code local, and especially right now, Sora, like
Mhm.
the that a lot of people kind of mention that that types of concept or the technology
Yeah.
already allows the user to type and export a game
Mhm.
because that AI already understand the physics. So I do think that, yeah, like I feel like every week I'm learning something new. The world becomes so fast updates. Yeah.
Yeah, and for those that are really interested in development, right, there's other ways like hackathons and
Mm.
side classes that can be taken. You have a whole set of content with XR Reality, and XR Boot Camp is another option. So there are certainly ways, if you can't find it within your college, university, high school, to look online and get that education.
Cool. And um, um, like, is there any particular skills, technology, or otherwise that is crucial for people who want to learn like XR or innovate XR?
Curiosity.
Curiosity, just be
Yeah.
curious.
Be curious. We're in a new, right? And be open to change, be open to experimenting, because we're in a new space. There aren't rules here yet. We don't
Yeah.
know, you know this better than anyone on the design side. We're still figuring out how are we going to interact? What are the interfaces going to be like? So yeah, I would say curiosity and openness are some important ones for sure. Um, I'd love to
Yeah.
talk a little bit too about like women
Oh,
in
yeah. Woman
art.
in XR. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think for, as we talk about education and folks that are getting interested in it and students, sometimes we see a lot of guys
Yeah.
that
It's majority of them are guys.
yeah, that are interested in exploring. And I just think that there's such a great women supported community, several of them, and has been actually, honestly, since 2016, since I've started to be in it, and perhaps even before,
Mhm.
that I just want to encourage that because there's the other way to learn, right, is to talk to other people.
Yes. Yes.
And there's some great communities that will that allow for that, particularly for women. So there's one on Wednesdays called XR Women. And so I would say for anybody, and it's open to all ages, any women in particular that are interested in joining that group, they should look online. And I should caveat I'm also on their board, but they've been around for 4 years now. And they meet every Wednesday in virtual spaces. And it's a good way to very welcoming, um, easy to get into. If you struggle, they'll help you with the next time. You don't have to have a VR headset. You can do it from a laptop, but just it's a great way to start developing relationships and learning about what's happening in the space in a very warm and welcoming way. So I really, really would like to encourage women to participate because we need a lot of diversity as we create as we, create these new startups and these new ways of computing.
Yeah, I think just echoing what you said, that the majority of I think XR starting with developers, and normally developers are guys. So I would say 95, and I can see like a more and more women jumping in from different perspective. For example, right now design, I think designer, the interesting thing that I observed for XR field is becoming like a from specific expertise to become diverge. For example, as a designer, people expect you know everything. Like for example, research, branding design, graphic design, and later on they expect you to start coding or start prototyping. So I do see that designer and creator and like the blurry of different job roles. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's pretty much you got a task and you just have to get it done. Yeah, so and I truly kind of encourage all the women to join, I think,
Yeah.
XR Woman, because when I was there, it was really fun. The reason why I didn't really join every Wednesday is because it's pretty early. It's like 8 a.m.
It's
It's
early
in,
West Coast time. Yeah, but they're
yes.
trying to make it global. So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's very welcoming, and every week they have like a speaker event, and it's very inspiring.
yeah,
Yeah, and um, um, like what do you see that, for example, have any AI or XR area picked or begun to decline, or like what do you see something, for example, like a metaverse before we embrace this term, but at some point that we stop talking about this term and now we go back again. So what do you see these types of hype? Like, yeah,
yeah.
like yeah.
So for me, metaverse is just so tied to the VR headsets that we have, or the MR AR headsets, right? Like having being fully immersed, right? And there are certainly metaverses that can be, if at the very basic level, if we call a metaverse a virtual space, right? You could call it like Fortnite or Roblox or whatever. But the difference for anyone that's actually tried XR, and if you haven't, I highly recommend doing it. I think there's still Oculuses that you can demo at Best Buy. Um, but the difference between being immersed in a headset and having that embodiment and sense of presence and being truly, like I was saying, immersed is, although there is pass through, which is also handy, which means there's a virtual level on top of the physical level. And I would imagine most of the people that are watching this know this, but just for those that haven't, the difference between seeing something three-dimensional on a flat screen and being in that three-dimensional space is vastly different. And I think that until it's easier and more comfortable and affordable to be able to wear the headsets for a longer period of time and own them, um, I think that the sense of metaverse might not truly catch on because I mean, not that it hasn't caught on. I mean, look at how many people are in Fortnite and Roblox, but I just think it's a different concept of metaverse if you're in it from an immersive perspective than if it's something you're watching on a flat screen. Um, so I think, as we get through a couple more a couple more versions of the headsets, I think they'll be lighter, they'll be easier to use, eventually they'll be cheaper, and there'll be more and more content that's available and interesting to do. So I think it's really going to be exciting in the coming years as that happens, and we'll really see a transformation from using a flat phone to putting glasses on and being immersed.
Yeah, I try like the Ray-Ban, the second
Mhm.
generation. I think the listening and also like listening to podcasts or listening to audiobook music was very useful. And some of it, I would say, probably still have a lot of potential to improve. But I think the device is so small and it can do a lot of things that, for example, right now I need like a earbuds to
Mhm.
put inside my ears, but with the kind of like the lightweight of like a Ray-Ban or smart glass, it's pretty much reduce, kind of insert something in your ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, they look like regular sunglasses. They're only a little bit heavier,
Hmm.
but there's no projection related to those. They're
Oh, yeah.
they're integrated from an AI perspective, and you can use your voice to interact with them. And
Yeah.
right, you don't. There's speakers in the sides, so you don't have to put anything in your ear. It's directional. And it's fantastic. I use them all the time. I use them for calls. I use them to make recipes in my kitchen.
Oh,
Yeah, uh, but no projection yet, so you're not actually seeing anything through them. But if we could get to that level of comfort, right? I can wear those for an hour,
wow.
whereas wearing a headset sometimes they just get so heavy still.
Yes.
Um, so I'm looking forward to lighter headsets.
Yeah, and I saw news that Apple is currently canceling the huge like the Apple Vision Pro, but instead they are doing the lightweight. Probably because the vision of Tim Cook is like the lightweight, but
Yeah.
unfortunately they just evolve so slow. Now they cancel everything and go back to the lightweight. So I think in the future it will be really exciting to see all the transformation from the 2D screen or phone into more like glasses.
Yeah. Yeah. My hope is that kids today ask, why did you do things that were flat on a flat screen? Like,
I remember a few years ago I went back to Taiwan. My cousin, they were kind of get like they went to like we went to like our grandpa's home, and my cousin, he was born probably 2000 or late 2000. He saw cassette or CD. I forgot CD or cassette, and they asked, "What's this?"
yeah.
Like I was
Yeah.
so old, or floppy disk. So I feel like
Yeah. Or
wow.
like I remember saying to my parents, why was TV black and white? Right? I didn't know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. So
And these
I
big
think
square TV sets, and now they're these thin things that are on a wall. So yeah,
yeah,
there will be transformation, and we are in the midst of a really
yeah.
exciting part of it.
Yeah, and for example, like what do you see each XR sectors will be growing the fattest way? For example, like training, remote collaboration, healthcare, or real estate, or like
Yeah.
education. What do you see like the growing
Yeah. So
sectors?
I think it depends on three things. One is what industries have the most money and to be
Mm,
able to upgrade to a new way of doing things. Which ones will spatial computing help transform the most? Um, and who's most open to new technologies? And if you look at the intersection of that, you're going to see areas like enterprise training, like healthcare.
yes.
We're also obviously seeing it in gaming.
Yeah.
A lot of possibilities there. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it in education, but to your point, it's going to be a little slower there.
Yeah,
You have the
yeah.
funding, but it might take some time.
Yeah, I think for community college or university, I do see that a lot of students will start. I remember I read WSJ Wall Street Journal about a lot of a lot of students start going to community college because it's cheaper.
Mm,
And a lot of people think a degree doesn't matter, even though I think degree somehow teach you how to think, but some
mm,
people just think they want to go cheaper. So I can see a lot of community college growing. And community college, the way they get funding is the enrollment rate. If
mm,
more people enroll, they will get more funding. It's more like a charity based. So I do see that a lot of interesting uh, blossom
mm.
things happening in community college. So that's what I'm also very excited. So
I love that.
yeah, because before when I think of community college, I think, oh, it's probably more adult education. It's like, yeah, it's adult education is right, but there are more and more high school. And
Right. I was going to say there's more of a blend between high school
yeah,
going
yeah,
to,
it's a
yeah,
wild range. And they have something, I forgot the name of it, but high school right now in Bay Area can register a community college course.
yeah,
Yeah, and then they partner. So there are a lot of things, and the community college a lot of topic. For example, some different department they can apply and transfer into degree focus. So
great.
yeah, so it's very flexible. And the other thing is that before we were thinking about like a blue column jobs, like a plumbing, but now there's an AI. It's interesting that it's very advanced thinking. There's a kind of like a education program to teach teacher to implement some blue column job robots fixing. So after student graduate from community college, they can learn how to fix the robot. Instead of they do it, they are learning how to operate the machines to do it. So there's a set of course. So I feel, wow, it's actually a lot of interesting things going on. Yeah, cool. So uh what types of like how can you like as for a college student like what will you advise them in this era, like just to for example like a long term for example like a networking collaboration, how do you see them survive and become successful in their career? What's the advice?
Yeah. So first, I guess I would say, and it's going to echo a little bit what we talked about earlier, but you know, have an open mind to change. Be curious about the new things. They call it a growth mindset. Um, how do you, you know, in this era of something that's been done the same way for a long time, what can new technologies do to make that be different, better, more productive, faster? I just think there's a lot of opportunities here, and to have that sort of a mindset as you're looking at anything you're doing in any industry, right? Truly, um, I think AI and spatial computing ultimately will transform across the board how we communicate and get things done and create, as we were talking about earlier. Um, the other word of caution in emerging technologies is that they do take some time, and there is this concept of timing. So particularly for anybody that wants to be an entrepreneur and start their own business, right? There's research that needs to be done to make sure when the market will be available, right? And the market, like when will people pay for the thing is that you want to buy? And,
Yes.
so that's really important. The other thing that I would say for anybody on the entrepreneurial track is make sure you're not creating something for the technology itself,
Mm.
but understand that there's a problem out there that needs to be solved, and then see how the technology applies to that. So start with the problem and don't start with the technology.
Yeah.
Um, the third thing I would say for any entrepreneurs out there is definitely make it easy to use, because again, you're looking ultimately for adoption and for people to use it. And with new technology, sometimes that can be really hard. And so you have to really start with the simplest things so that the users are comfortable using it, and then you can help them grow from there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, start with the problem because sometimes when, like, for me, I would love to try a lot of new stuff, but I think the adoption rate, and especially, for example, like the headset, yeah, just for people to wear that headset, it needs to be so worth the experience needs to be like very, very good because wearing headset is not comfortable. So I
Yeah,
totally agree with you.
yeah,
Start with the problem and see how we can solve people's problem.
yeah.
Yeah, and
But be curious, like do your own exploration. But if you're creating a business, then it has to be, yeah, it has to be more focused.
yeah, and I think people are more and more open-minded, which is great because I mean, I'm not Trump supporter, but I feel a little excited about Trump kind of bring a lot of tech people to change a lot of different policies. So yeah, that's the part that I think it's probably more open mind. That's just me. Yeah.
Let's
Um,
hope.
we will see. Yeah. So, do you have any last kind of like things you wanna mention? If before we didn't talk about it, do you have any last advice you wanna give?
Yeah, I would just say again to anyone, whether you're in high school or you're looking to transform your career, this is really an exciting time. A lot of things are going to start to change in the next 5 years, and there's a ton of opportunity. definitely be open and learning and curious as we go through this period. Um, and try not to get too overwhelmed about the rate of change. Not everything that comes out will be successful. Not all of these new AI tools that we're seeing right now will last forever. So don't get too attached to anything, right? All the headsets will change, just as iPhones did every 2 years for a long time. So, but go with your heart, do what you're passionate about, and yeah, like I said, this will impact every industry. So, how does this new technology impact the thing that you want to solve and that you want to do?
Cool. Yeah, that sounds great. And I really appreciate, Amy, your time and a lot of great advice. For example, like I need to be curious about things and always learning and be generous, right? Like learn as much as you can because right now, yeah, there's nothing really fixed. And I would say the best headset is not even coming out yet. So we can just keep trying and keep learning, and somehow there will be an opportunity in the future once I would say the market is more mature. So we just keep learning, observing.
Everything we learn now will be applicable at some point. So,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, before I think if same as UX UI before, UX UI is more like a moving around things and there are a set of concept, but when working on the advanced technology, it's more like there's no previous ideas and how can you come up with something that solve the problem and you don't have any template to see. So
mm.
yeah, it's also a very challenging for the designer at this era. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. We release episodes weekly. If you enjoyed this conversation, check out our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Support us by give us a follow and a 5-star rating, or subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thank you, and I will see you next time.